guys, Prof Smoke here. Today I'm going to teach you how to spray paint a GameCube and get a really nice result with zero experience spray painting or customizing GameCubes. I'll give you all the information that you need right in this guide on how to spray paint these properly, what products to use, and some nice tips that I've learned along the way. So let's get right into it. For this project, we'll need a Gamebit 4.5mm screwdriver, an electronic screwdriver set, and some sandpaper, as well as our spray paint, and optionally, also you could use a clear coat layer to protect your spray paint. The first step is going to be disassembling the console. The main things we need for this step are the 8-bit dough screwdriver and the electronic screwdriver set so that we can open it up and remove all the screws. The main point of this step is to separate all the plastic parts from the internals so that we can paint the plastic parts by themselves. There's plenty of videos on YouTube showing how to open up a GameCube and all that stuff, so check one of those out, definitely, because my video would just be way too long if I explained every step of disassembling it. The second step is that we need to clean all the plastic. We want to clean it really well. I'm using warm water and soap and then scrubbing it with a toothbrush and peeling all the stickers off and making sure to scrub all the adhesive under the stickers off as well. Once our plastic's nice and dry, we can move on to the next step, which is going to be sanding down all of the surfaces that we want paint to adhere to. So pretty much scratch the whole thing up really well, and the paint's going to stick to it better. I'm just using random small scraps of generally rough sandpaper, but pretty much any sandpaper that's not super fine is going to work for this step. Before we start painting, we need to separate our plastic by color, so whatever color it's gonna get spray painted. So as an example, on this GameCube, I separated the front plate, the back plate, the handle, and the power button so that they would all be black, and then I spray painted everything else minus the gem, is it, or the jewel? Yeah, the jewel. So before we spray paint, we need to talk about two things. The first thing is technique. The second thing is the type of spray paint that we're going to use, right? So that we have two main techniques that I would suggest. The first one is going to be to set up a table out in the middle of your driveway or somewhere where you can spray paint and you're not going to get spray paint on anything. And then you tape down a tablecloth to the table so that it won't get any paint on it. It'll practically be impossible because you just completely protect it with the tablecloth. And then you just simply spray paint on that. And when you do it that way, you're going to have to flip your parts. So you're going to have to leave it on the table, let it dry, and then flip it. So that means if you do it in your driveway, you might have to, make sure that it's good weather or something like that. Or even like move it into your garage while it's drying. Second technique is kind of a special situation. So imagine this, right? If I'm spray painting this GameCube, I have this black part and this part, and then the buttons. And I would remove those, right? I would wrap the handle with painter's tape so that no paint can get on the handle, and then I would screw it back together with the handle still in there, and I could tie something to the GameCube shell and have it free hanging. And I would also remove the jewel as well. Pretty much just all the red parts I would leave on it, and I could hang it up and I could spray paint the whole thing, right? Really well, and just get really good coverage, and you would actually be able to like rotate the string too if you needed to. But I think that is the best way to prevent any kind of pooling. Because if if I'm sitting this down on a table and I'm spray painting it, then at this lip, right, where the shell is sitting on the table or whatever, the paint is going to pool up and it's going to be less likely to get a completely clean paint job. Now for spray paints, I suggest using this Montana plastic primer. It's T2000. So if you're looking for it, just type in Montana primer T2000. Specifically for plastic, works great with GameCubes. I've tested it. Or you can use something like a Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch 2x Ultra Cover. That's paint and primer in one. I would suggest using a black can of that if you want to prime with that. And then for the actual colors, I like these. These are Montana spray cans. These are metallic. These are more matte, and they have the most colors out of any company. Now there's also Krylon Fusion all-in-one spray paints that I've heard work well on plastic, but I like these. Now we're going to take a look at the footage of me testing all the different types of paints, and I'll talk about actual spray painting technique while we take a look at that footage. When we spray paint, it's important that we do it in a well-ventilated area. And if you're going to do it outside, you want to make sure that it's in the right weather. I would say that a sunny, non-humid day is the best time to spray paint for sure. You don't want it to be windy, and you don't want it to be too much moisture in the air. When you spray paint, you don't want the spray can to get too close to the surface that you're painting, because then the paint will pool up, and you'll have droplets running down the side and everything. You also don't want to do too thick of layers. You're going to do at least 3 thin layers whenever you spray paint to get a good, nice paint job. So if you do these layers too thick, again, you'll have pooling, you'll have droplets running down the side, and it's just not going to look very clean. Each layer should be like a light dusting, pretty much. Another good tip is to get your hands on some painter's tape or some frog tape. And I like to tape the insides of the buttons so that no paint can get on them. But you can also use the painter's tape to tape down things like the bottom panels and your buttons so that they'll stay in place while you paint them. On the bottom of the GameCube, there's 3 ports that have these removable panels. Those are perfect to test your spray paint on. I would definitely prime that surface, let it dry entirely, and then spray paint that surface a few times in thin layers to make sure, because some paints just are gonna not give you the results you want. Once your spray paint's dried, be sure to take a good look at the whole thing and see if there's any imperfections anywhere, because you can easily just touch those up by spraying some spray paint over top of that spot. And once you're happy with your paint job, use some clear coat spray to protect it. I suggest using either the Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch 2x Ultra Cover Clear. There's matte and gloss. Pay attention to that. Matte is going to be non-reflective and gloss is going to be reflective. So you need to pay attention to what kind of clear coat you're using. And the other type I would suggest is Mr. Hobby Top Coat Spray. There will be a link in the description for all the products that I used in this video, and we'll talk about which ones I use on what GameCube next. So now that we've spray painted all of our GameCubes, let's talk about the types of paints I used and the result that we got. So for this first one, I didn't paint this. This is just a factory indigo GameCube. As you can see, it has a very fine granule to the finish, right? When you look at it, it's just very, very fine, tiny pieces, and the entire thing is consistently like one flat color, other than the scratches, okay? So that's the result that we want on these GameCubes. So let's see how these compare to the original finish of a GameCube. This first one is using the Duplicolor paint, which was the car touch-up paint. This was the first one I did. I just had this paint lying around. It has a nice red metallic finish, so I was like, oh, that'd be badass. And so when we look at this, you can see, like, right here, there's these specks all in it. When the paint sprayed out, like, it's like these little chunks kind of sprayed out in random places. So there's all these flecks all over it. And if I were to use my fingernail, I could, like, pop that right off and screw the paint job up. But that pretty much means that we have a speckled finish on this one. And that's not what you would want. But it did turn out great other than the speckled finish. If you look at this bottom part here, I didn't get perfect paint coverage on the different parts. So this bottom line here is darker than this top color. So let's take a look at this second one. This is with the metallic Montana spray cans. This is plum, if you're curious, that's the color. And this one has almost a perfect finish. There's maybe 1 or 2 tiny flecks of imperfection, but again, that's on me as the spray painter. That's because I didn't use I didn't use the technique correctly. This was the second one I did. So if you look like here on the side, there's an imperfection. You can see it pooled up a little bit, so the paint was thicker there, so it's a little darker. And then if you look at this bottom line, it's a different color as well, because I didn't get a consistent coat on all of the different parts. So that's why I'm emphasizing you need to get a thin coat so it doesn't pool up right here. Again, it pooled up where it meets the table. But the actual finish, when it's applied properly, is comparable to the GameCube. I would say that it's pretty much the exact quality of the GameCube. So it's just hands down the best paint to use. Now for this next one, I have scratched it up a little bit since I did the paint job, but it pretty much has that same level of consistency. I actually only did 1 layer on this because the paint was so strong when I put it on. I was like, oh, it's done, but that was definitely a mistake as well. But definitely that same quality of finish, maybe a few speckles here and there, but still, if I had applied it completely perfectly, you know, it would look the same quality as a GameCube. Now this last one is the gold chrome, and it looked really cool when I first sprayed it, but then after it was dried, I touched it. Okay, if you look at it, there's fingerprints all over it. Now on the can of the gold chrome paint, it literally says that pretty much if you touch it at any time after it dries, it's gonna keep the fingerprints permanently. So anytime I touch this, there's fingerprints on it. I didn't know that about the paint. Don't get this is the Montana gold chrome, okay? Don't get that color because you don't want it. And I actually did do a 5th one for another project that was green, and that one turned out better than this purple one using the Montana plastic primer. So that's why I'm suggesting use the Montana plastic primer, check out the Montana gold and the Montana metallics, and before you spray paint, take the one of these little panels off the bottom, take it, spray paint your primer on there, let it dry, spray paint your spray paint on there, let it dry, spray it again lightly, let it dry, spray it again lightly, let it dry, and then touch it. Make sure that the finish, once it's completely dried, is going to be good. And also test your clear coat on top of it as well, because paints like this gold chrome, when I put the clear coat on it, it ruined the paint job. So you want to do a test run on something like these little pieces on the bottom of your GameCube for sure. That's definitely the smartest way to go. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'd honestly be happy to talk with you like in a Discord call if you need help like on the spot with something mentioned in this video. So if you need extra help, hit me up. We can go over some stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.